What's going on, you bunch of heretics? Grab paint pots, grab your recaf, and let's get some paint on that ever-growing pile of potential. It's here. The heresy is my therapy SlapChop tutorials. Today we are talking dwarves. Yes, dwarves. More specifically today, the Kalak King from the DAVALE Games miniature range. Great proxy model for any sort of dwarf that you want to use. This technique will give you a way to paint any dwarf from Warhammer, MESBG, yeah, D&D, the whole lot. Very simple, nice easy paint scheme for your dwarfs. So, without further ado, let's get to it. Right guys, here he is, our Kalak King from DAVALE Games. Lovely looking model and one that you can use for so many gaming systems for some whatever you want to use as a proxy, but I think it looks great. We've got our wet palette good to go. We've got our paint pot, a selection of brushes, tissues, you know the routine. Let's get some paint on. Remember guys, we're doing our classic 3-stage dry brush that we have been doing for quite some time. As you can see, I've got my administratum grey and I've got my larger dry brush. I'm using a selection of dry brushes here, but remember, get the paint on the palette and then you're going to take off all the paint, get it all off, get it all off. And then all we're going to do is big old circles, small circles, big circles, all over the model with this. Probably 2 layers of this, just to build up a really nice base before we apply our other layers. But this needs to go absolutely all over the model, okay? So in every nook and cranny, build this up, like I say, 2 layers, use a selection of different brushes to be able to get this where you want it to go. Then as always, we're going to grab a clean dry brush. This is just a large dry brush from the Zenithal range, and all you're going to do is you're going to take off all of that excess dry paint. Okay, you're going to take off all of that excess dry paint. All right, get it all off. As you remember, guys, for these miniatures, I am using the Techlon Tiger Drybrush from Chronicle RPG. Next, we've got our Orthran Grey. Nothing's changing, guys, from all the previous videos. Administratum Grey, Orthran Grey, Corax White or White Scar. I've got a smaller dry brush this time, but same again, get plenty on the brush and take all of it off, get it absolutely all off, all right? And as always, guys, all we're doing is just over the tops of the model where the light would usually shine. That's where we're gonna get from. So there's no need to go underneath anything. We're just going over the top, nice and loose. It doesn't have to be too hard on it because we've already done that with our Administratum Grey. We're literally just applying that Orthran Grey just over to the tops of everything to get that nice finish. And again, as always, grab your clean dry brush and just take that excess dry powder off. Okay, it'll be totally worth it. Once you've done that, remember guys, it's Corax White or White Scar, whichever you want to use. And same again, small dry brush, take it all off, absolutely everything off. And again, all we're doing is just dusting over the tops, just lightly, just over the tops, over the corners, over the edges, just to get those really nice final bits of kind of dry brushed edged highlights all over the model. As easy as that, guys, all right? Along the tops, just all over those areas that we want to just add a nice little bit of highlight to with our Corax White. Again, just a single layer is all you're really going to need for this. If you want to go over it again, you absolutely can do, depends on how bright you want to do it. Almost like a bit of a Zenithal start. And as always, guys, with this, we're going to make sure we get our clean dry brush and we're just going to take off all that excess paint, make sure there's no dust or dusty paint on the model so that we are ready for our initial phases. Okay, and there you go, quite light there, guys. As you can see, you can go a little bit lighter if you want to, but I like to have a nice, that's quite light there, that's lovely. Okay, all we're gonna do, as always, guys, I've got my Astro Granite. This is all I'm gonna do is my base again, whichever base you want to go, if you can do, but all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get this on the start of the model, just so that it saves time later on, so I'm not having to do it at the end. Okay, I guess especially if you're batch painting stuff, just get it on and you can just work your way through the models. All right, I'm just putting it on generously, nothing too wild, all on the model. Okay, from there, make sure you've got your Lamian medium, and I've got my Pterodon turquoise. You know I love this combination, it is great. And again, we're going to want a very thin mix of this, okay? We're not creating a non-metal metallic silver. That's not really what we're creating. We're just kind of creating like a turquoisey, silvery look to the model. Okay, so it's going to be a very thin layer. So we're going to 1-to-1 with this. Okay, mix it up again with 1-to-1 of Lamian medium and Pterodon turquoise. And all we're doing is in the armor plating of the model. That's where we're going to be going with this. Okay, so the armor plating of the model, that is where we're going to be going with this. Okay. So as you can see, it's the kind of like the very obvious armor plating of the model. So not the chainmail, but all of his armor plating is where I'm going to apply this Pterodon, as very light layer of Pterodon turquoise. Okay, and again, I'm only really going to have one coat in this. If you want to do 2 thin coats, you absolutely can. But for me, I think I'm just going to go with the. Yeah, you know what, I do go to 2 thin coats with this. For this, I am, noticeably, I am using the Sage Studios Series S #1 brush for this. But again, yeah, 2 thin coats, guys, 2 thin coats. Let's go 2 thin coats, that's what I do remember doing now, yeah, 2 thin coats for this. But please make sure these are really, really thin. But we're just going in all those armored areas, and even the axe as well. You don't have to do the axe if you don't want to, but I just quite like the stone, like, tough look for this guy. Okay, and there we are, prepped up, good to go. Okay, next up we're going to grab our Black Templar, and same again, guys, this is going to be a 1-to-1 of our Lamian medium and our Black Templar. Okay, so again, we're getting it on our paint palette. Apologies, it's kind of focused on the dwarf. We're on our paint palette, and we're also going to get on to our Lamian medium. And again, this is a 1-to-1, and we're just going to very thinly apply this over those the area that we've just used Pterodon turquoise. For those of you that have watched some of the other videos, like the Scouts videos and stuff like that, we're not going as dark with this. This is just a very, very light, almost wash, if you will, very light wash just over those areas, just really getting into the kind of nooks and crannies, but leaving that turquoisey stone-like hue to the armor work. Okay, so again, all those areas we've applied Pterodon turquoise to, that is where we're going to be going with our Black Templar thinned with Lamian medium, guys. Okay. Okay, next we're going to get our Corax white, and all we're going to do is just put a very light feather dry brush, just like we do with the Zandri dust. Okay, so just a little bit on the brush there. All right, and we're going to take it all off, get it all off, absolutely all off, off. Okay, and just very, very gently, just over those areas we've applied on painting the arm work. We're just going to add just a smidgen, a feather dusting of white scar or Corax white over those areas. Okay, just to kind of give it a bit of a pop, bit of a shine, and a bit of an edge highlight, even more so onto the model, but really feather it like we do with the Zandri dust, guys. Nice and gentle, nothing wild. Okay, next up we're going to get our Mantis, our Mantis Warriors green, and we're going to go straight from the pot to the palette with this, okay, because it's a very light and easy to navigate colour. Okay, it's very light, very easy, and this is what we're going to use to do the start of the cloak. Remember that colour theory, we don't want to go straight on with our darker greens. We're going to apply a lighter green first and then the darker green afterwards. So all we're doing is again, realistically with this, 2 thin coats of this onto the cloak to get the initial ball rolling. It will look a little bit light at first, a little bit odd, but once we apply either Dark Angel's green or Camo green, whichever dark green you might have, it will make sense as when we do that. That'll be later on. Okay, but yes, just again 2 thin coats just over the model. Move the paint around, don't let it pool. Okay, just move that paint around, but again, we're just applying this underneath so that when we apply the dark green, it will give it a nice green hue. Okay, next up we're going to get our Gore Grunter fur, and again we are going to thin our Gore Grunter fur down with our Lamian medium. I always get this colour mixed up with Cygor brown for those who've been watching other tutorials, but yes, Gore Grunter fur with our Lamian medium. And all this is going to do is just going to sit nicely into that fur that's around the shoulders and the top of the back. Just being mindful of the beard and hair, we are going to leave those white relatively. Okay, so again, 2 thin coats is all you're really going to need. And as you can see, I've got my mixing brush, and then I'm applying with my normal sort of like layer brush. I do love this layer brush from Siege Studios. It is from Artis Opus, sorry. It is absolutely lovely. But yes, like I say, we're just building up those layers. Just 2 thin coats is all you're going to need just on that fur, because we are going to be going to go over it with Cygor brown later on. Okay, so just 2 thin coats with Gore Grunter fur, mixed with Lamian medium. 2-to-1 mix is all you're really going to need with that. As I say, 2-to-1 mix is all you're really going to need. And then what we're also going to do, once we've done that, then round the belt, we're just going to apply that to the belt. Okay, so same thing again, just on the belt line, to kind of give it that sort of like leather-like look. All right, that leather-like look to the model. All right. So again, 2 thin coats is all you're really going to need for this. All right. Okay, with that applied, we're going to get our Dark Angels Green. If you haven't got Dark Angels Green, Camo Creed will be Creed Camo will be absolutely fine. Okay, but we're just going to get a nice darker look onto our cloak. All right, because at the minute he's a little bit too light and Hobbit-like. So we're going to get our Dark Angels Green, and all we're going to do is again 2-to-1 mix of Dark Angel Green to Lamian medium, and all we're doing is just applying this over the top. Again, 2 thin coats, and you'll just see that sit really, and it will sit really nicely, and it will just darken just right for the model that we want. Again, 2 thin coats, and as you can see, it's starting to just darkens them on nicely, sits in the shadows really well, and the highlights look more green as opposed to pale, if that makes sense. So we've got a really nice contrast of the greens there. Again, 2 thin coats, move the paint around, don't let it pool. Okay, and just move that paint around, let it sit nicely. Okay, next up, Magma Dwarf Flame. You know where we're going with this. You know a little bit of Magma Dwarf Flame. Again, we can go straight from the pot with this one. Again, nice and light on the wet palette. It does work nicely with this. All right. So all we're going to do, we're just going to take this Magma Dwarf Flame, and we're going to place it to the kind of like the undercloak of the armor and the gloves. Okay, so the undercloak of the armor and the gloves is where we're going to go with this Magma Dwarf Flame. Okay, as you can see there. And then a little bit on the gloves as well. Yes, I did switch brushes for the keen-eyed amongst you. I did switch brushes, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, so the undercloak is what we're going to do. And again, with Magma Dwarf Flame, you only really need one layer of this. If you want to do 2 thin coats, you absolutely can do, but 1 should be fine. All right. And there we go. We're just getting those gloves all done. Okay, with that applied, we're now going to get our snake bite leather. Okay, snake bite leather, and all we're going to do, we're going to apply this on the handle of the axe. Okay, so on the handle of the axe, again, pretty much straight onto the palette, palette, and then onto the then just apply a nice thin layer, 2 thin layers onto our axe handle. Next up, we're going to get our Flesh Tearers Red, and where we've gone over with our Magma Dwarf Flame, we're going to apply that over. But again, we are going to thin this down with our Lamian medium. Again, we're probably looking at a 2-to-1 mix of this. It's almost like a bit of a wash, just to sit in the recesses and give it a bit more of a rich colour. Those of you that have watched a few of the other videos before will know that this sits really, really nicely and just deepens that red. For those of you that watch the Von Ryan's Leapers video, you'll see that in much more detail. But again, all we're doing, almost like a wash, we're just placing it onto those areas that we've applied the magma jar flame. And again, all you need for this is just 2 thin coats to really give it that rich red look that that rich, almost regal-esque look that we want for our Kalak King. I mean, he's the king. He's got to look regal. You know what I mean? It's got to look regal. So yeah, in there. Lovely job. Okay, next up we're going to get our Cygor Brown. Okay, Cygor Brown. Now this is going to blow some minds here, folks. Yep, because you know where we're going to go. All the areas that we applied the Cygor Brown to, the Gorgon Fur. I did it again. That's where we're going to go with our Cygor Brown. Okay, and don't forget to thin this down. Thin this down with our Lamium medium. Okay, 1:1 almost. You know, 1:1, 2:1, but it needs to be thinned down. Okay, to a nicer, just thin down. With that Lamium medium. Okay, and all we're going to do is we're just going to apply 2 thin coats over the fur and around the belt. Okay, just 2 thin coats over the fur and around the belt. For those of you guys that are enjoying the music in the background of this is from Epidemic Sound. They have some really good music that I use for the background of these videos. So hopefully, if you're enjoying them, Epidemic Sound is where I get my music from. Yeah, so like I say, we're just going in there. Okay, and again, on the handle as well, again, just to give it a bit of a richness. And also what we're going to do, we're going to thin down that mixture again. Okay, so we're going to thin down that mixture again with some Lamium medium. And all we're going to do is almost like a bit of a wash. Okay, so thin down that mix again with that Lamium medium. So almost like 2:1 of Lamium medium to Cygor Brown. And we're just going to really richen the red areas now. So almost like a bit of a wash just over the gloves and over the cloak area. We're going to apply this thinned mix, almost like a really thin wash, just to really richen the look and give it a deeper red, like a reddy brown, almost like red leather type look. Okay, there we go, just in there. All right, but nice and thin, but make sure you thin it down again with that Lamium medium. With that applied, we're going to put that same mix. Okay, we're just going to now, on his beard, he's got like little like bracelets, is that the right word, like hair clip, beard clip things. You'll see them on the model. So if you back clips, all I'm doing is literally just throwing in a few, just a little bit of brown on those clips. With that applied, it's time for our Xandri dust, guys. You know the routine with this. Okay, no, sorry, my apologies, that was Skeleton Horde. Come on, Dan, get with the program. Right, Skeleton Horde, because we've got to do the crown. So all we're going to do with our Skeleton Horde, pot, palette, onto the crown, 2 thin coats. Okay, 2 thin coats of Skeleton Horde. My apologies, troops. I could see some of you already firing away in the comment section. But yes, on the crown, Skeleton Horde, 2 thin coats. With that applied, we're going to get some Basilicum Grey. Basilicum Grey. Where's this going, I hear you ask? Well, worry yourself not, troops. All we're going to do now with the Basilicum Grey, we're just going to put a bit of wear into the beard. Okay, so Basilicum Grey, and just really nicely, again, thin this down with your Lamium medium, and it's almost like a wash just over the beard. It just sits in the gaps and the crease, just to kind of break the beard up a little bit and give it a bit of weathering. And what's great about Basilicum Grey, it's almost got like just the tiniest of brown hues in there as well. Okay, so it just gives a bit more of a natural look to the hair and the beard. Okay, hair and the beard, Basilicum Grey, thin down with Lamium medium. Next up, we're going to get our Iron Done Yellow, and again, guys, simple enough. This is going to go on the crown. Okay, so a little bit of Iron Done Yellow onto our palette. And all we're going to do is, again, just as it is, we're just going to go, again, just a thin coat over the crown, okay? So all the areas on the crown that we applied our skeleton horde, we're now going to apply our Iron Dan yellow. Okay, as you can see, I'm pointing to that mixture of Cygor brown that we had, that thinned down version. And all you're going to do is just very delicately, just in the sort of recesses of the crown, just apply a little bit of that Cygor brown wash. And this is kind of give it a bit of a very quick how to non-metal metallics for the crown, okay? And that'll just sit in there really nicely. But again, make sure you, if you need to, again, just thin it down again if you need to, and just build it from there. But in the recesses of the crown with that Cygor brown. Ooh. Right, now it's time for the Zandri dust. And you know the routine with this, guys, because if I've said it once, I have said it 1,000 times on this channel, guys. We get it on our brush, our small layer, our small dry brush. We take absolutely all of it off. And we are just feather dusting this on. And I'm talking next to zero pressure. You shouldn't even see a change for the first few strokes, and you're going to find it frustrating, like, oh, is this even working? Then out of nowhere it will just start to build. Okay, so make sure you've got next to nothing on the brush, very finely go over it all, next to no pressure, and then you can add a little bit more if you need to. Okay, but this is very much of a patience game with this. Okay, don't rush it, because otherwise if you rush it, it will just look too much, and it won't look right. But get all over the model. And again, if you want to go heavy this time on the base, so on your base, dry brush a little bit heavy if you want to, but on the actual model itself, it's a feather dusting. Okay, feather dusting. Imagine you've got a little feather and you're literally just tickling the model, if you will. That sounds a bit creepy actually, don't tickle the model. But then you can go a little bit harder on the base should you wish to, okay? But on the actual model itself, feather dusting. Okay, next up we're going to get our Nuln oil, and all we're simply going to do is a thicker brush, and you're going to basically put that Nuln oil into the base of the model and just let that just sit in the creases. If you're using a different base, like a bit more of a brown, then use Agrax Earth Shade. It's completely up to you. Or if you're adding a bit of a moss effect, you can use Thonian Camera Shade. Okay, we're going to get our Iron Warriors, and this is where we're going to paint the chainmail on the model. So all the parts that are chainmail, so obviously the under the armor and under the cloth, you've got the very obvious looking chainmail, and then under the arms as well, and in the gaps of the armor work. Okay, so all we're going to do is we're going to apply that Iron Warriors onto all the chainmail. And again, 2 thin coats is all you're going to need of Iron Warriors in those chainmail areas. Okay, nice and easy, nice and delicately put that on there. Too easy, some would say. Oh, come on camera, focus. You get the idea. Sorry, it's kind of blurred a little bit there, guys. I do apologise. Again, under the armpits and side, and all the areas that have got chainmail, Iron Warriors it, 2 thin coats. Okay, we're now going to get our Arcadian Flesh Tone. So while that Iron Warriors is drying, we're going to get our Arcadian Flesh Tone. And again, all we're looking to do is just 2 thin coats. Again, I like to use the wet palette on there because it's, you know, it's easy enough. It kind of keeps the moisture in the in the paint. But again, small layer brush if you've got one, and all we're going to do is just on the face, around the eyes, minding the beard, but just 2 thin coats of Arcadian Flesh. 2 thin coats. You know where we're going with this, troops. Okay, next we're going to grab our Nuln oil, and basically all we're going to do is where we applied the Iron Warriors, where we applied Iron Warriors in all the chainmail, we're now just going to do a thin layer of Nuln oil just so it sits nicely into all the recesses of the chainmail. Okay, so Nuln oil, pot, straight on, no danger, let it do its job. Next up, we're going to get our Guilliman flesh. You know the routine, we're back to the skin because we're letting the Nuln oil dry. Remember guys, Guilliman flesh, round the eyes, round the face, just over the face, Guilliman flesh, and again, you can put as many layers on this as you want depending on how dark you want to go or how much tone you want in there. Again, I usually put like just 2 layers on this, focusing on the eyes and the recesses, top of the beard, and underneath the crown as well. Okay, just allow the Guilliman flesh tone to do its job, which it will, no problems. Next up, Agrex Earthshade, and all we're going to do is we're going to pop some Agrex Earthshade just into the eyes and around the nose. Alright, so eyes and nose, just to allow a little bit of a hooded eye look that we like to go for on the channel. Easy as that. And then finally we're going to get our Kislev flesh. Nice and simply, Kislev flesh. Again, we're just going to dot highlight nose, eyebrows, tops of the cheeks. Very, again, pop it on our palette. Make sure you've got a small layer brush for this. Again, I'm just using the Artis Opus Series 1 to place this on. Alright. So again, top of the nose. So nose, eyebrows, boopity boopity boop, cheeks, forehead. And again, just build the layers up with it. Easy as that. Right, final bit of painting on, we're going to get our Stormhost Silver, and you're just going to very, very delicately dry brush this on to the highlighted areas of the chainmail. Alright, so again, a little bit on the dry brush, take it all off, get it all off there. Please excuse my dirty thumb, had a bit of a leakage. Take as much of it off as possible, and then just very, very delicately just dry brush that over the chainmail. Easy. And then me, I love a snow base. Valhalla Blizzard, just snow base this on. Again, just use like your basing brush. It's an old brush that I use for all my basing. And just go rogue with the snow. But honestly, snow bases are the absolute way forward. They're just great. And then I'd apply a little bit of Chaos Black around the base, the sides of the base, just to kind of tidy that model up. Alright, let's cut to the end. And here he is, the Kalak King, all done, good to go, ready for the tabletop. Hopefully guys, you found this video useful. If you have, please give us a little thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, tell me if you've enjoyed it and what you'd like to see next. Like I say, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. For even more, check out DAVALE Games. They've got an incredible selection of miniatures on there. Without further ado guys, I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.